Mark, when you think about the SEC and look at South Carolina, look at Shane Beamer, they had a lot of high hopes and expectations with Lenora Sellers coming into this season, but it ain't working that way. They've already fired their offensive line coach. John Hartwell was right when he said earlier, the leash is very short on these coaches.
No, and Shane's a good buddy of mine, known him a long time. And he's a good football coach, but the ceiling is what it is at South Carolina. It's been that for over 100 years. I mean, before Lou Holtz got there, I think they'd won 2 bowl games in their entire history. So Shane, this year they did have high hopes with Lenora Sellers and had to pay a bunch of money to get him to come back. When I was at the Masters, there's a guy there in a green jacket that's a huge South Carolina booster, and he said we had to get a ton of money to keep them, and they haven't been able to really put it together this year. But Shane, does he see more value in competing in the SEC and being a head coach in the SEC? And I know he and his wife love it in Columbia. Or does he take a chance on going back to Virginia Tech and trying to rebuild what his dad had built in Blacksburg? It's just Virginia Tech seems to really be an obsolete program right now. But that is an escape route. And I think guys at schools like that have to look at that. It's getting tougher and tougher, and administrations are being less patient. Do you see the writing on the wall and go ahead and get out of town while you can? But we'll see. Like I said, and look, I talked to Lane Kiffin about it a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot more parity in the league because of the transfer portal and NIL. He told me flat out the days of the Nick Saban dynasties and Kirby Smart winning back-to-back national championships and stockpiling 5-star after 5-star, where you've got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter playing second string.
Yeah,
those days are over, because you're not going to be able to just sit there and hold 5-stars, and develop them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think of Barry Alexander, and I'm not sure where he's playing this week, but that's another.
Has he made a tackle yet is the bigger question.
Yeah, has he made a tackle? Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, they're born on third base and think they hit a triple. I mean, they've got this reputation out of high school. Kirby's my favorite coach in the league from a standpoint of my personality. That's the way I'd be like, or Will Muschamp. I mean, them both. I don't know either one of them. I just know them from a distance, but I just know that you play a full 60 and you get your guys to just be relentless and the ability to make adjustments. You got a chance in every game. Matt, we've experienced some turbulence here at 38,000 feet on our way from Atlanta Hartsfield to Charles de Gaulle, but feel free to walk around the cabin now with Mark Schlabach, ESPN.com.
Well, I won't repeat what I said earlier. I went on about a 10-minute rant, then we had technical difficulties, so I don't want to send us in a bad spot again. But, we mentioned South Carolina, and I'm curious this week. Shane had the ability last year with the slower start to really have a strong finish, and it wouldn't shock me. We're still not sure if Mateer is completely healthy or gripping the football. Oklahoma's got to go to South Carolina this weekend. I tell you what, there's so much parity. Mark said it. There every week, if you're on the road, man, getting a road win is like a gold bar. I kind of like South Carolina to upset Oklahoma this weekend.
I was really surprised that Venables rolled out Mateer last week against Texas when he hadn't practiced at full speed or gone one-on-one. And it hurt him. But, look, South Carolina had a couple of close road losses, were competitive at LSU, competitive at Missouri, only had the one bad loss to Vanderbilt. Just don't have enough playmakers around Sellers. Faison, the Utah State transfer, has been a pretty good back. They've struggled to get Harbor going. We'll see. I mean, it's, look, if Oklahoma has a bad second half, Venables may be in trouble. That's the way it works now. Right. I want to go back to Matt's earlier question about Terry Smith. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the guy because his nickname was Superfly when he was playing at Penn State. Great wide receiver, Justin King's father, the cornerback there. So we'll see how Penn State reacts. James Franklin we can criticize him all we want for the not being able to get it done in big games, but there aren't many people that have beaten Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon lately. But the collapse, I mean, we talk about a year removed from being not even a year removed from being in the national semifinals and having a chance to get to the championship game. But hell, 3 weeks ago, they had Oregon in overtime.
They did.
With a chance to win, and they may be the number one team in the country. I've never seen a team, you always talk about a team they let somebody beat them twice. Penn State let them beat them 3 times, which is insane against UCLA and Northwestern. But it's the same effect that UCLA had when they fired Deshaun Foster and let Jerry Neuheisel and the interim coach take over. I mean, just a complete jolt of energy. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. Matt, John?
Hey, Mark, the one I wanted to ask you about, and it seems like he's gone below the radar screen, and I think the amount of the buyout and the terms of the buyout may be keeping this one off the radar screen. But Mark Stoops at Kentucky. So his buyout, I think it's $37.7 million, which obviously is a bunch of money. But the other caveat to his, it's all got to be paid in a 60-day period. So obviously, in Big Blue Nation, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't think you're going to get a whole bunch of argument here. If it were basketball, it would be a high-level conversation. Football, maybe not so much. But as Texas rolls in there this weekend, and on the flip side of that, 2 weeks ago, Texas was written off for dead. But if you look at the schedule and the timing, obviously they had early losses. If Texas gets on a roll, they could end up 10-2 and maybe in an SEC championship game and maybe in the CFP, even if they don't make the SEC championship game. So talk about those two teams there a little bit and their coaching situation.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Stoops. He's great, was a great defensive coordinator. He's one of those guys. I mean, even Mark Richt, when you're at a place for too long, usually doesn't end well. Same thing with James Franklin. He's had a couple of 10-win seasons there, which is unheard of, but I think they're 1-10 in their last 11 SEC games. The transfer portals killed them. NILs killed them. So that's the dangers of coaching football at a basketball school. A lot of that money's going to the Big Blue basketball team. Same thing at Duke and Carolina. Lane Kiffin told me, I keep bringing up Lane, but Lane's one of the few guys that'll actually tell you something. He said these big contracts, he called them a problem, and then he stopped himself and he said, well, it's a problem created by Jimmy Sexton. It's not a problem for the coaches because it's so one-sided. And then I had to remind him, I said, Jimmy is your agent. But at what point do these schools step up and say enough's enough? We're going to hire your guy, Jimmy, but it's going to be a 3-year contract, and there's not going to be a $50 million buyout. It's not going to be so one-sided. And it's just Jimmy has ran circles, and I love Jimmy. I've known Jimmy forever. He's run circles around these administrations, and why they keep letting him do it is beyond me. But the sport has shifted so much just in the last 18 months, 24 months. It used to be about the head coach. It used to be about Steve Spurrier, Bobby Bowden, Tom Osborne. Schools were so terrified to lose their head coaches.
Yeah.
And now it's about the players. I mean, the players, you gotta have the Jimmies and the Joes. And so you look at what Kurt Cignetti's done at Indiana, and Kurt's a great football coach. I think the most underrated guy in the country. If you can win in Indiana, you can win anywhere if you give any coach enough money. Yeah.
Hey, Mark, I'll make one comment just kind of from the AD side there as to what you said. And yeah, Jimmy is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. But the thing is with that, if schools / athletic directors, if somebody is going to stand up to it and say, hey, we're not going to do this, the danger zone there is let's just say if you're Scott Strickland and you're trying to hire, John Doe as your next football coach, and you say, hey, I'm not going to give a $70 million buyout, or I'm not going to make it an 8 to 10 year contract, and you stand your ground on that. Well, if Arkansas hires that individual and fast forward 2 years and that guy's taking Arkansas to an SEC championship game, a lot of times that athletic director is going to find themselves in the job search line as well.
Yeah. Again, look, if I'm negotiating a contract with Jimmy Sexton, I'm bringing in Morgan and Morgan or somebody to represent my side. I'll tell you a funny Jimmy Sexton story. Because you guys were talking about cracked windshields and going from Hartsfield to Heathrow. It was probably about 10 years ago. I was doing a feature on Jimmy. I finally talked him into doing it. And we'd gone to an Ole Miss game to see Lane, and we were flying to Tuscaloosa on a private jet to go watch an Alabama game. I think it was that weekend, Rob. There was Arkansas caught a tip pass to beat Hugh at Ole. No, it was Hugh at Ole Miss. The Hunter Henry play, maybe.
Yeah.
It was that night, and then I can't remember who Alabama was playing that night. But anyway, we're flying through a thunderstorm somewhere over Mississippi and Alabama, and Jimmy's sitting next to me, and a couple of his assistants are on the plane, and it's bumpy. I mean, really bad. And I look over at Jimmy, and he's freaking out. And he goes, "Oh yeah, the guy who controls everything in college football is freaking out in an airplane. Can't wait to read about this."
Yeah.
And it was the first 3 paragraphs of my story. He was so pissed.
God. Well, when I worked at Regions Morgan Keegan out in East Memphis, I was on the 6th floor, and Jimmy and Kyle Rote Jr. were on the 5th floor. So we were all connected. So we saw it, I was there 9 years and saw it every day. It was pretty, when the market started really collapsing, the stock and bond market in 08 and 09, we used to tell the receptionist, so let's get Donna to up front, the receptionist, to say, Warren Sapp and Ray Lewis are here to check on their brokerage accounts. People climbing out the window. But I don't know Jimmy Sexton. I have a lot of friends in Memphis that do, but I know someone that used to work for him who's now up in Nashville with the other William Morris Enterprises. And he has Marcus Freeman and Mike Norvell, and it was with his dad Monday night. And it's an interesting business. Really interesting. And Rich Clark was speaking at the touch. Mark, we got to get you to come to the Touchdown Club. You would be a great speaker. I don't know if you like
Rob,
doing
Rob,
that.
I just wanted to throw one thing in there about Jimmy, and he is a great man. Have known him for a long time, and my favorite go-to on Jimmy Sexton is, hey, never ever forget that he was a student equipment manager at Tennessee.
Yeah.
If you want to know the ins and outs of what's going on and who's got the inside intel, the equipment managers. And Jimmy has taken that from the time he was a student at Tennessee and it still uses it today.
Yeah. What's funny, Mark, is Kyle Rote Jr. spoke at my 3rd grade sports banquet at PDS. And I always remind him he goes, "How do you remember that?" I go, "Well, my dad said I was an idiot savant, so I guess I am." But Kyle Rote Jr., I went down there when the jet gate occurred with Petrino in Louisville. I remember going down to his office and I said, "Let Coach Tuberville know we'd really like to have him stay at Auburn, And he goes, "I'll be sure to tell him." But it is really incredible, Mark, how the influence of college football is in a small, tight cabal. And you look at Greg Sankey. Is he the most powerful man? Is Pedidi the most confused guy in the Big Ten? Is Yormack the entertainment guru? What's the landscape in college football look like in your opinion? How would you rate it? Power brokers.
Sankey, Petiti, Yormack right now. I laugh when people say college football needs a commissioner because Greg Sankey's never going to relinquish an ounce of his power. And he, those 2 leagues control everything. Yormark's done a good job with the Big 12 on some media rights deals and sponsorship. And, Petiti, we'll see what happens with this private equity deal, because it seems like it's falling apart with Michigan and USC pushing back. And it just amazes me that anybody thinks it's smart or ethical or legal. I guess it's legal, but to sell a portion of a public university's athletics department to private equity. It just tells you where we're at. And
yeah,
people are so terrified of the costs of it, but they're going to have to figure out how to trim costs. And you can start with coaches buyouts. Somebody mentioned Mike Norvell. That's another one. I think it's like a $58 million buyout.
Wow.
After this season. And, he did a great job against Alabama, stunning Alabama week 1. And then to lose 3 in a row They've still got at Clemson, at NC State, and at Florida at the end of the year. I mean, that thing could go sideways quick. And Florida State's a school that doesn't have a ton of money, so it's going to be crazy.
Matt.
Yeah, Mark, you're right. I watched that Florida State Pitt game this week, and you talk about going off the rails. They couldn't stop. Their defense couldn't stop Pitt the whole day, and Pitt's got a really unique story. I don't know his name, but a young quarterback that came in and really just kind of carved them up the whole day. And it's been a long 6 weeks, 7 weeks since they beat Alabama. I'll tell you that much. And it started with that double overtime loss, obviously at Virginia, but like. That game against Pitt is not a good sign with Mark, the schedule you mentioned moving forward. They're going to be lucky to be bowl eligible after what you just said, you know?
Yeah, Castellanos is turning it over. Mason Heichel, I think is the kid's name.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, and I mean, on the flip side, what Kalen DeBoer's done at Alabama, getting that program to bounce back. I was over there this week, Tuesday, and I mean, people were ready to run him out of town.
Yeah.
And they were ready to bench Ty Simpson. And now Ty Simpson may win the Heisman Trophy. But,
Yes.
you know, people wrote, friends of mine wrote, you know, he's in trouble. I was like, it's the first game.
Yeah.
He may win the SEC. You know, we overreact so much now. And it's because of what's at stake and the money's that's at stake. But Kalen DeBoer is not only one of the nicest guys you'll meet in the profession, but he's a hell of a football coach, and he's won big everywhere he's been. And a lot of people turned that job down, and he was brave enough to take it, replacing Nick Saban. And to get Ryan Grubb back as offensive coordinator is really good. It's funny. A friend of mine's brother is a big booster at Alabama, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he called his brother after that Florida State loss. And he said, what was the word in Tuscaloosa? And he said, all my big money buddies are calling me complaining. He said, well, what'd you tell them? He said, I told them y'all are acting like Auburn fans. And he said, one of his guys responded by saying, well, we're playing like damn Auburn.
Oh, whoa. Well, Mark, I just want to know that lady that said, if I win the lottery, how much is his buyout? $69.8 million. I'm going to pay it. And I remember I have a good friend whose family's been with Alabama. His dad used to live with Coach Bryant. We talk a lot. And I just remember saying, guys, Ty Simpson's father, coach at UT Martin, and he's been there. He's a fourth-year junior. He's got Ryan Grubb coming in. And what I think people missed was we talked with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris to cover Alabama for us. Jaden Roberts missed like 3 weeks of reps. When you miss all those reps as an offensive lineman, that's like missing, 3 weeks of class. And I mean, I remember when I was at Auburn, those big football players, they were great to sit behind because they blocked out the sun if you hadn't studied it, you know what I mean? But I'm just looking at Alabama and saying, you're right about DeBoer. And I asked him at media days in Dallas, I said, Coach, it's been said you did everything but chalk the field and sell concessions and drive the bus. And he, you know how he is. He's from Aberdeen, South Dakota, or Millbrook, which is where Heupel. We got the South Dakota Bowl, by the way, coming up this weekend. Alabama and Tennessee, both coaches from South Dakota. Kind of a cool story. Ask him if they like pheasant hunting. Pheasant season starts this weekend in South Dakota. So it's a big day for them, probably a state holiday. But I think about Kalen DeBoer, when I asked him that, he kind of went, oh, shucks. He said, I mean, it sounds good. He goes, I really didn't drive the bus. Well, not very long. But you're right, Mark. There's so many great stories. And first off, thank you, Patience, and for so much for staying a little bit long with us. And I know you've got a busy day, but I want you to tell us what the landscape is right now with ESPN. You say like the last man standing. You get to cover everything. You've got, that's like me telling my kids or my grandkids now, hey man, we're going to Baskin Robbins and you've got a blank check. Well, $100 bill to get all the ice cream. How much fun is your job?
It's fun, and I'm not the last man standing. I'm the oldest man still standing. We do that. Dave Wilson in Austin, Texas. You guys would love him. He does a great job covering Texas and Texas A&M. He helps out with LSU. Yeah. They brought in Andrea Adelson, who went to Florida. She knows the Florida program. She mostly goes to the ACC, but she's really good.
Yes.
So I have some help. But I mean, look, I've been covering golf and college football for one paycheck, by the way, for the last 5 years, and the golf has been a blast. And it once Live Golf showed up, I focused a little bit more on golf for a couple of years, and mostly just did Georgia in 21, 22 because they were so good and I'm close to campus.
Yeah.
But now, I want to get out more. I want to get out to more campuses because there's coaches. I told Lane, I said, Lane, I don't think I've been over here in 5 years without Chris Lowe by my side. And Lane responds, "Oh, he's the best." And I said, like, "Yeah, thanks, Coach. Saban's the best too." But it's been fun. I love my job. I've been doing it for 30 years now, pretty much 20 at ESPN, I think, which is a long time. Stayed off Twitter or X, whatever it's called, which has allowed me to stay that long. But that's good.
Yeah. Well, John, jump back in here with Mark Schlabach, ESPN.com. This is great stuff. Those of you watching, if you're an aspiring journalist or whatever, you need to pay attention to what Mark is saying, because I get to work, Mark, with Brendan and his dad, Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com. And this is fascinating because when Buddy asked me to write a column or something, Buddy, that's like, say asking Michelangelo for art lessons, or you or someone, or Kevin Skarbinski, who's also on our channel. And by the way, Kevin said years ago, when are the people at Auburn going to get smart and quit giving these ridiculous contracts where the university is on the hook for untold millions when they have a crappy coach? And it's nobody listens, but I digress. John Hartwell.
Hey, Mark, let me go outside the SEC a little bit and talk about powerful folks in college football and college athletics. You look at Cody Campbell at Texas Tech, obviously the series of commercials regarding the SAFE Act and things like that, some legislative movement in Congress. But look at what he's helped fund on the football field. I mean, Texas Tech, undefeated. I know they have Arizona State this weekend, but you look down their schedule after this Arizona State game, maybe other than that BYU game, they've got a chance to go undefeated. Talk about NIL and investment and getting well in a hurry. That's an interesting story there in Lubbock as well.
No, he's definitely one of the most interesting guys in college football. I'd probably put him in the top 5 most powerful people in college sports right now. There's some conference commissioners not very fond of him for some of his ideas, but I don't think you'll ever see the conferences come back together and pool their television contracts. Like I said, the SEC is never going to give up $1 billion contract, but that guy's probably worth $2 or $3 billion, and he's never put a shovel or a backhoe in the ground. It's just been oil and gas leases. It's kind of like he's the real life landman.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. Midland, Texas.
Yeah.
But I remember before the season, they went out and spent all this money, and he said it was going to be the greatest roster ever assembled in college football. And I was like, well, Saban or Kirby would probably like to say something about that, or the Miami Hurricanes of the 80s and 90s. But, they spent over $1 million, I think, on David Bailey, the defensive end from Stanford. And some people didn't like Bailey at all, and I think he's got 8.5 sacks right now. My favorite Cody Campbell story, his wife, they were watching the Women's College World Series a couple of years ago, and she said, I really like that pitcher from Stanford. And the next thing you knew, she had $1 million contract to transfer to Texas Tech. And a guy on Twitter tweeted him and said, Cody, quit being a Red Raider sissy and go sign us some defensive linemen. And he responded, I will. And then he went out and got Bailey and a couple other guys. And then he got whiskey glasses etched with I will on them. And he did. So, I mean, it's insane. But, yeah, look, Indiana, Texas Tech, examples of schools. If you use the portal right, you use NIL right, you can become a college football playoff contender pretty fast.
Yeah. Mark, have you been to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill? I had a friend of mine last night called me after going there for dinner, and Brendan, he met Freddie Wiebe. Freddie Wiebe, one of the nicest. He gave them the full VIP tour. They actually went upstairs to Visors. There'd been a private gathering of a bunch of people up there for something, a fundraiser or something. But he said this place is absolutely, it's nothing like a bunch of old trophies and newspaper clippings. It is first class. But have you been there and had a chance to talk with the head ball coach, one of my favorite of all time?
We went in there 2 or 3 years ago on the way to the beach. I think we were going down to Sarasota or somewhere. Both my daughters graduated from Georgia in the last couple of years, and we roll in, and my daughter's wearing a Georgia shirt. My other daughter's wearing a Georgia shirt. We didn't get the VIP treatment like you did.
Well, but it's just it's a cool. I like the way Coach Spurrier is still involved, and Buddy and Brendan have Urban Meyer on this channel a lot with Best Fridays in football. But Matt, jump back in here with Mark. And Mark, just a few more minutes. I know you got to go, and I appreciate your patience. And Brendan, it's just I have the best executive producer in the world to make this thing work. This had never happened before, but you know what? We'll push through it.
Hey, Mark, I'm going to ask you a golf question. I assume you were all over the Ryder Cup, and the Europeans were just amazing. I have some golf friends that are always talking about the grit and grind. What was your perspective this year? And it just seems like we can't get over their number. And recently, I think Tiger came out and had another surgery.
Cost me a trip to the Bahamas.
Can play in a major again, but yeah. So I was curious about the whole Ryder Cup experience because I've heard that's a bucket list thing.
No, I've been to 3 now. I went to Whistling Straits. I went to Rome, and then was it Bethpage Black the whole week, which was a really long week. I'm not going to complain, but we were staying out at a hotel. The closest they could get us was a hotel at JFK, and it was a 2-hour commute each way to the course.
Oh, geez.
I mean, it was brutal. Yeah, I mean, look, you could talk about bad captains, bad pairings. They're just better right now. When you're rolling out John Rahm and Rory McIlroy and Tommy Fleetwood and Tyrrell Hatton, those guys, I do think there's an argument to be made. They care about the event more. They're a better team because I think Europeans get along better than Americans. Americans are more individualistic, which, I mean, you saw the Americans played a lot better in individual singles on Sunday than they did in the foursomes or the 4 balls. But, I felt bad for Keegan because I think Keegan was put in a bad position because the PGA of America sat there and waited for Tiger to make his decision on whether or not he wanted to be the captain. And then they picked Keegan. He'd never even been a vice captain. But, I thought he did a great job keeping that team together and getting them to play well and stay in the event on Sunday. The course setup, something happened there. I don't think he was going to throw the Bethpage Black crew under the bus, but it wasn't what they had envisioned when they got there with the rough and the greens. But, I don't know. We'll see Adair Manor next time in Ireland. And JP McManus owns that, and he's really close to Tiger. I don't know if Tiger will do that one because it's on the road and he probably doesn't want to lose his first match as a captain, but they need to get it out of the PGA of America's hands. They need to come up with a U.S. Ryder Cup organization that handles it, and they need to cooperate more with the PGA Tour, and the PGA Tour needs to be more willing to let those guys play together in PGA Tour events to develop the chemistry that the Europeans have. I mean, just basically blow the thing up and start from scratch, and bring in Nick Saban and Mike Krzyzewski and whoever to figure this thing out.
Well, interesting. Maury Gaston, good friend of mine, watches this show. He was the one at Spurrier's Grill last night. He said after the number 1 team in the SEC, 2 through 16, it's almost like the top 15 or 20 guys on the PGA Tour. There's a stroke or 2 difference. You think that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah. I think there's 8 or 9 teams that could end up in the SEC championship game. I think, again, I just think everybody's come back to the field. Alabama and Georgia, I think people have caught up with those teams and built more depth and through NIL and everything. But I still think you got to develop. And that sort of thing. There's my wife in the background getting lunch to go to work.
So, hey, Mark, again, thank you more than you know. We got a couple of more questions, then we'll be done. But John, Mark Schlabach, ESPN.com, and then let people know how they can follow you too, because you are putting out great content all the time, mobile content. Oh, this is great. Now on the front porch here. Okay, John.
Yeah, Mark, I'm gonna put you on the spot here and get you to reach for your crystal ball. Who are your two teams in the SEC championship game? And then ultimately, if you had to pick two today, who are the two teams that are going to play for the national championship in Miami in January?
I'll go Alabama. Ooh, after that, I don't know. Everybody. I mean, is Tennessee good enough on defense?
Yeah.
Is Ole Miss good enough on defense? Can Texas A&M survive all those road games? You know, Georgia keeps finding ways to win, but they keep putting themselves in huge holes coming out of the gates. Can't get off the field on third down. I don't think they're as talented as they have been, but you know, they're still good enough to get there. Alabama, Texas A&M. I don't think it's going to be Texas. I think Texas has got too many deficiencies. But national championship game, Ohio State with what they've done on defense. Sayings playing at a really high rate. I'll go Alabama, Ohio State.
Wow. Okay. All right. Last one. When you think about the number of coaching vacancies that are likely to be open, we know about Florida possibly as soon as this weekend. It's all over the place right now. What are you going to be writing about your next stories in college football? I love the take about Lane Kiffin, because I live in Memphis and I have a lot of Ole Miss friends, and they say he is as happy as he's ever been. And you've been over there to talk to him. So you're getting back out and about. And let me just say this again. Thank you so much. We've got to get you back on again. And sorry for the technical issues and all and keeping you long. But man, you are true grit journalism, Mark. And just kind of close us out with that, and we'll let you go.
We'll see what happens with Florida this weekend. I think win or lose against Mississippi State, I think Scott Strickland is going to have a decision to make. You know, part of the problem there is Napier's calling plays. Do they have an obvious choice to be an interim coach? Do they reach some sort of a settlement where Billy coaches the rest of the season and they go ahead and announce it? I think you're going to see schools pulling the trigger more just to get in the market for the head coach. You know, Lane, I don't know. Like I said earlier, I think he's really happy there. I think he's in a really good place. Personally, you know, somebody told me earlier this season, the question with Lane and guys like Drinkwitz, do you want to turn over 50, 60% of your roster every year? Do you want to have to put forth the effort and the energy to do that, where you can go to some other places where it's not such a high turnover rate and kids aren't going to leave? So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Well, great stuff. And as crazy as it is, we still love watching the games. And I think the ratings, I think that triple header ABC's doing has been nothing but good. How do people follow you? And we'll let you go.
Yeah, just on ESPN.com. I'm not on social media. I think it's the gutter of humanity is what I call it. And I've got a book coming out next spring that I did with David Pollock, his memoir and a motivational book called Everyday Counts, which I'm excited about.
Let me say, I saw him putting out David. I get really mad when I think about how he's not on ESPN anymore. He's really good. If I could ever have him on the show, if you could help me with that, I would love to have Dave. We were just over in Atlanta. Our daughter lives in Sandy Springs, and we were over there over the weekend. He's really good. I really, really like that guy. And fighting back from the neck injury, you know, had to end his career. He's like you. He's a truth broker. So just putting that seed in your head. So anyway,
no, David, I've known David since he was a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
I was covering recruiting for the Atlanta Journal, and David will tell you the worst athlete I ever covered at Georgia was David Pollock. he was impossible to deal with because he hated the spotlight and he wasn't uncomfortable. And then the irony was, like, after his neck injury, he called me and said, "Hey, I want to do what you do. I want to get in media." And I'm like, "Really? You hate the media? Why would you want to do it?" But he's done a great job. And his wife, Lindsay's been recovering from a brain tumor. Unfortunately, they got all the tumor out this summer. And I mean, they're really strong in their beliefs and their faith. And he is crazy. The guy has he never drank alcohol. He never used tobacco. He saw Mia Hamm on television one time saying she gave up carbonated drinks to prepare for the Women's World Cup. So he has not had a Coke since high school.
Wow.
He doesn't eat sugar. It's nuts. And my wife goes, all my wife's daughters, crushes on him. And I said, yeah, but you wouldn't want to live like he lives.
Yeah, I got to have one Mexican Coke a day, Mark. That's what I do. But all right, Mark, thank you, man. Have a great rest of your day and look forward to having you on again.
Thanks, Mark.
Good to see you guys. Thank you.
You too.
You bet.
Take care, Mark.
That was great. And I'm telling you, David Pollock, he's really good. You see some of the reels and Brendan puts reels out from this show. And I know I got a chance to talk with Rich Clark, executive director of the College Football Playoff Committee, Monday. He was at the Touchdown Club, Matt, and asked him a couple of questions. And he's big on the parity. We got a lot of that. And but Mark, and I just hadn't had Mark on in a while because he got so put out a couple of years ago with what was happening in college football. Who could blame him? So he was shifting more to golf. But man, the golf questions, his depth of knowledge, guys, of golf is just like Buddy Martin. Good God, you can do podcasts with Buddy Martin and Lauren Smith on the Masters. Lauren's been to 65 consecutive Masters. As Lauren Smith, legendary sideline reporter for the Georgia Football Network, broadcasting with Larry Munson all those years, said, I was just a 19-year-old country boy from Wrightsville. I'd never been to the Masters, and I went up there, and I'd been going back for 65 years. I mean, golf and football in the South. I don't think there's a more beautiful marriage than the Masters and golf and football in the South. SEC, ACC, Sun Belt, whatever. There's something special about Augusta National and having an egg salad sandwich or pimento cheese, and to hear Buddy and Lauren tell stories about covering the Masters. I mean, you can't make that shit up. It's solid. Brendan, you've grown up. Brendan's like growing up the child of a rock star equivalent in the media. And that's just what you see. But God, I thought Mark was great. Just the insight about Lane Kiffin and what he's been through. And John, you as an athletic director understand it. So do you, Matt. It doesn't matter. D1, D2, D3. Understanding about the people and all that are in here. It's incredible. Gary Harris on location in Tuscaloosa. I told him we'd lost an engine, and we'll get him back on next week.
We can still have Gary Harris on the show. We're just
he does
see how these guys are on the internets too at the same time. Gary can do this.
Yeah, well, he starts his show at 9 though, 10 o'clock Eastern. Yeah,
well, he's already started.
Yeah.
Tell him to put us on the air at a simulcast. That's crap.
I wish. Now I told him
regional broadcast. We're worldwide. What is he on in like? 2
we're
states?
Global. We've got people in. You know.
Gary.
I tell you, we got people in.
And Rob, most of the time, I don't have the heart to tell you when the stories that you think are really cool. I don't have the heart to tell you my stories because it'll just make you cry. I can't tell you stories of walking in the living room and being like, "Oh, that's Terry Bradshaw and Roger Staubach and my father in my living room. Oh, this is my friend Danny."
Well, like, I mean, I've got a friend whose her father was a member of Augusta National, and he passed away a couple of years ago. She said one time we were in the house there at Augusta, came in about 2 a.m. We've been out late, and it was totally dark, and I tripped over someone and fell down, and the light came on, and it was a friend of my father's, Jack Nicholas, and he would lay on the floor because his back hurt so bad. He goes, "I'm so sorry," and Kirby was like, "Mr. Nicholas, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I bumped into you," but and you think about the people behind Vern Lundquist. Lauren always has lunch with Vern Lundquist on Wednesday.
We can't even be having these stories without Buddy on, Rob. I don't know why. Vernon's like his buddy. Like,
I
all
know.
these guys. You're talking stories like the guy will literally tell you stories that would make you cry about golf tournaments and people.
Yeah, Buddy's done it. When Buddy first came on the show, September
Done it, yeah.
11th of 2021, Buddy and Brendan were driving the road from Ocala to Gainesville. That's when I knew Buddy, we got to get him back. He goes, "That's the way the old Gators go. This is so," whatever that highway was, Brendan, I had more people go, "You got to get that guy back on." And so Buddy's been coming on. I mean, now he's part of our family. But guys, I want to bounce around the league right now with what's happening. You've got 8 conference games this weekend. It's crazy that October 18th is the first weekend that we've got everybody. It's an all-league affair. And it's also, again, I said it earlier, the first home SEC game for the Arkansas Razorbacks. They definitely get the split end of the stick when it comes to scheduling. Matt, John, Bueller, Brendan, anyone, what can they do to change that? I guess you got to just win a lot more.
Well, I was going to say one thing, John, and I know you were in these meetings as an AD, and I had a little bit of this, but when you look at scheduling and you have so much growth, that scheduling matters. And we haven't, to me, what's going to be fascinating, guys, is the tiebreakers that go into the parity we have right now. There could be, multiple ties, and just the whole logistics of how do we determine who the top 2 teams, if like we have a tie for second. I just think we got so much parity. If you go on the road and win, it matters. And I even look at Florida's situation, Brendan, the road losses that they've had, you can't convince me if the schedule was flipped and they went 3-1 at home in those situations, whatever. It matters who you play. And sometimes you get a scheduling break. And if you look at what Indiana has the rest of the year on their schedule, the Big Ten, their toughest game on paper is at Penn State. Well, that game got a lot easier. And I think with the parity now, if you are fortunate enough to find a way to have a great schedule and win the games you should win and split on the road and get in 10-2 in the playoffs, you have a shot at the national championship. It is crazy what's going on. But I still love – I love where Alabama's at right now, guys. Yeah. And I got to tell you what, Kirby Smart, when they were down 10-0 and they did not allow that touchdown, Rob, not many coaches win that football game, but Kirby Smart, man, it's going to be Alabama and Georgia. That's my opinion.
Well, that's who I picked preseason with Georgia to win. You just got to, John, you got to play a full 60. And you know what that is? You can't, you look at Auburn, they just kind of got in their head. This is not the first time you've been screwed by officials. Go back to the Oklahoma, whatever you want. You got to get over it. You got to get over it.
You got to back it up, Rob. You shouldn't be there. If you're that good, you shouldn't be there.
Exactly.
Out. That is such a tired Auburn fan.
It is. It's really bad.
Because I'm a Gator fan. Okay.
Yeah.
So I did y'all are what you're happening is you're doing this slippery slope thing. We're at the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Y'all need to stop it right now because you're going to end up where we are if you're not careful.
No, here's the thing, right?
Let me just say real quick. Georgia got the win because they played the full 60. And look, I hate taking off. I can't be a fan. I've got to be objective. I'm just saying you're going to get screwed by officials and you're going to get calls that other people think you screwed them. You got to move on. But when Hugh Freeze says his body language, I know he's fighting his health issues and I pray he's going to be okay. But you cannot look defeated because your players pick up on it. You come home from work, you got 3 or 4 kids in the house, and you look like the defeated man, and your kids come tell you that they had a bad report card. What are you going to do? You better find excuses to win, John Hartwell.
Every championship team, regardless of the sport, faces adversity. Winning is easy. It's easy to smile and puff your chest out when you're winning. It's how do you respond to adversity in tough times? And that occurred at the end of the first half of the Auburn game, but they sleptwalked through the second half. It's almost, none of us were in the locker room, but it's almost like, did they spend halftime bitching about the bad call, or did they spend halftime making adjustments and say, hey, how do we overcome this in the second half? And that's, that's a tough thing to deal with, obviously. One thing I was looking at at the schedule, and ironically enough, you talk about 8 SEC games this week. The two biggest spreads of games, and obviously, that's only what the folks in the desert think. The two biggest spreads in games are Texas over Kentucky, 12.5 points, Texas being the road team, and then Florida being a 9.5 point favorite over Mississippi State. So two teams that that have faced their own struggles this year. Those are the two biggest favorites for the weekend. I think it's going to be an unbelievable game weekend of football. Nobody's really talked about LSU at Vanderbilt. I mean, all of a sudden, is there some heat on LSU if they go to Nashville and lose, which could very well happen.
John Vandy's a favorite.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was there. We talked about it yesterday in 91 or 90 when LSU lost at Vanderbilt. And it was a weird ending. It was the 11:30 a.m. Jefferson Pilot game, the timeout game. But but back to, look, I was physically felt nauseous at what happened Saturday. But we all know spit happens during games. You cannot be stuck. I mean, Auburn people love to quote Pat Dye. I always remember what he would say: football is a 60-minute game. You've got to play the full 60. Tommy Agee would say that. You cannot let it come down to the end. The man in the stripes beat you. No, most games are decided on 4 or 5 plays, and now everybody's mad at Kirby. And it's just, look, you just got, stuff happens. And like Chuck Oliver said, it happens. If they didn't call it, it never happened. And we're all, what are we going to say? I've always said we need a new show called Forensic College Football. Let's go back throughout history and find out with laser beam 4K camera technology how many calls they got wrong. When, kind of somebody just looked the other way and goes, of course that's a first down as the ref kicks the ball. I mean, that's just the kind of stuff that happens.
Not possible to do, unfortunately, Rob. You need to have the 4K camera before you go to the 4K
exactly.
technology.
Brendan, here's a question for you. We're going to get into some technology, Brendan. What if they put a laser tag on the nose of the football so when it crossed the plane, it went up on the Jumbotron?
Yeah.
But then again, if it was fumbled out of his hand, it would still show red. Then you got to see, was his hand holding it? So, Brendan.
Too much technology, too many moving parts. That's already hard enough to do replay. No.
Yeah. Well,
it's literally, you all don't understand. It's hard enough just to get them to do the replay. Yes. They finally just got their own. And this is not for regional. Regional guys that still have to take the feed from the truck and they still have to replay it down the line. It is not, look, modern technology or not. And you have so many footballs. So you're rotating balls. So it's like, then you have to reacquire that football laser feed. It's not like it's an exact science in that fact either. So, and then you have to have bipartisanship as far as, is this legit at home? Is this not? Is this laser not good? There's just, it opens up a ball of wax for you, I think, guys.
Yeah. Well, one other thing real quick, the ACC, I watch the ACC network a lot too, as the SEC network. They have full transparency. They talk, during the replay. I can imagine the SEC live from the Birmingham Country Club. What team? What's their record? Well, they have no chance of making the playoffs. And who are they playing? Well, we got to get them in the playoff. I mean, I don't know what's said, but man, you can't blame officials. It sucks when it happens. Stuff happens. Matt is a coach. John is a player, as a coach, as an athletic director. I don't know. The athletic director chasing the officials off the field. John, would you ever do that just personally? Because you're a big, intimidating guy at 6'7", 225, all muscle.
You never say never. And in my early days as an AD, I may have been on the sidelines a couple of times, and not obviously chased after anybody, but maybe had a question with a targeting call or a pass interference or lack thereof. But I mean, here's the deal: that John Cohen in that instance probably had a flashback to his days as a baseball coach.
That's what I thought.
And arguing a call or something like that. But you gotta. The best advice there is, hey, if you're gonna go down on the sidelines, which as the AD, whether you're taking donors down there, doing an on-field presentation or anything like that. You can't insert yourself in the game like that, regardless of how bad the call is. Yeah, you want to fight for your institution, fairness, and everything like that. But the way you do that is make calls after the game. It made a bad situation worse, and it was not a glorious day on the Plains for the home team, the Auburn Tigers, in that game.
Well, it's like
Matt,
today with what happened here. Brendan doesn't even bat an eye with technical issues, and I've learned working with him, hey, it's going to be okay. We'll work. Hey, if you're going through hell, what's the best advice you've ever had? Keep going.
Start drinking. Hey, Matt,
Heavily.
when do you know as a coach when you are to like, because it's calculated, when is it time to just go ahead and blow it out and let your team get kicked out? I mean, I've heard coaches talk about this.
So that's
I'm serious.
I was thinking about
I
that.
love it.
Brendan, it's a great question. So I was a head coach for 16 years, and I only ever got 2 technical fouls in game. But we were playing a game in Colorado Springs against Colorado College, which when you enter the gym and the wall, they have the altitude of the location there, just so you know how high you're up. It's a really hard place to play. We're coming from Memphis, Tennessee to Colorado Springs, Colorado. They had an All-American point guard. We had fought our way back. We took a lead with 3 seconds to go. No one has a timeout left. They push the ball up the floor at half court. They're really stud point guard. She just leans into my kid who's just running along. And bumps her and just flops and throws the ball up half court. And they put the kid on the line. Until she made the free throws to beat us, I went over, I shook the coach's hand, congratulated him. I literally sprinted down the hallway because their locker room was right next to mine. So obviously I didn't get a technical foul, the game over. But the problem is, Brendan, is sometimes in close games, you can't do that as a basketball coach during the game. I mean, you give someone the ball and 2 points, John knows as a former D1 player, in a close game, that's taboo. So I always wanted to be the person that when we told our kids at practice, we're like, hey, we will talk to the officials. You don't talk to the officials, or the captain does, right? But, Brendan, it's hard on the road, man, and you got fans yelling at you. I'm coaching in smaller gyms. When you're in a bigger gym with a lot of fans, you can say more sometimes because you don't get hurt as often. But when you're in a small gym, man, you got to be careful with your mouth because you have an administrator up there watching your team play, and you let one slip, and then you may not be coaching next game. So it's really it's a great question. I've only had 2 T's, Brendan, but I had one incident in Colorado where, man, if they'd have had me on camera, I probably would have lost my job.
Oh, wow. Hey, John, have you ever experienced that as a player where a coach before halftime, they're like, you guys got no energy. I've had enough. You should be winning this game. Freak out. I've had a coach do it one time and we still lost. But
yeah, I'm not going to incriminate this coach I had. But there was a coach along the way that literally, and I'm going to age myself a little bit here. This was back in there weren't these nice $10,000 each wooden lockers with the hookups in them and the fans. These were old metal cage lockers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I actually had a coach who got inside one of those lockers and started beating their head on the thing. Said, you guys do not have the motivation. You won't run through a wall. You won't do this. Now, and there's a time and place for everything. And, I don't know that had the impact that it really was supposed to have, because I think most of us said, what in the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there's a time and place. But, going back to Matt's point, I had this conversation with somebody the other day. They were talking about coaches going off and stuff like that. I said, you know what? A lot of people who are not in the game and don't know the details of this, Mike Krzyzewski amongst officials, I mean, they said he could be the worst there was. I mean, you talk about getting MF to death.
Yes.
But he didn't do it. He would go over there and he'd kind of hold his hand over his mouth so you couldn't see. But he could dog cuss an official with the best of them, but he knew how to push them just to the edge.
Yeah.
And then would back off.
Yeah. I always heard that he was
psychology, is no doubt. Like Steve Spurrier, mastermind with officials.
Bobby Knight.
But Spurrier would just suggestively be like, I think they're hitting past the whistle, and
Yeah.
just all these things, and then then he'd follow up in the media, right? And it's a storyline. If you know how to use it, it can be really good, right?
Yeah.
He
Brendan,
just
to your
took his
point,
frustrations out on that visor. That visor would get taken off and slammed to the ground.
Brendan, to your point, before every game a week prior, we would get a list of the names of the officials that were assigned to our game. So I never was a Mr. Ref guy. If you're doing my game, Brendan, I was like, Brendan, you missed that call, right? I mean, I you're a hell of an official, but you missed that call. You owe me one, Brendan. And it was just a psychological. I mean, I would never you're terrible. I was never that way. I was like, hey, you missed that call, right? And that kind of works sometimes. I'm not saying every time, but I would know their name.
It's better than nothing. We're about to have to wrap up, but I think with officiating, if it's a mess, you got to do it with the back channels, and you can't let the team get caught up in all that. They got to focus on playing the games. But yeah, I've watched coaches. Krzyzewski's notorious for dropping the F-bomb maybe 200 times a game. So and he's a good Catholic. I mean, of course, I know plenty of Catholics that can drop the bomb, but it's fun to watch these guys. But I'll tell you one thing, I don't like it when they put a camera down there on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Man, come on. That's sacrosanct. I mean, sacrosanct. There's going to be stuff said, and they don't need to be broadcasting that out. Matt?
Well, they don't.
I got to tell this story, and John will appreciate this story because I coached John's nephew at Denison University, my first head coaching job. This is after 9/11. This is 2002. We're playing in a conference tournament postseason game at Wabash College in Crawfordsville, Indiana.
Yeah.
All male school. They have a tradition. So they assign some guy before the game to see what the head coach is wearing. So this guy, I had on blue pants, my suit, red tie, glasses. And this guy would find out what I was wearing, would dress exactly like me. And when the game starts, he was mocking me when I was in the huddle right behind my bench. So I went nuts because the crowd was really loud. And I said, who's in charge of security? Get this guy away from my bench. I almost went after the young kid. It was crazy, but he got in my head. It was one of the most unique things I've ever seen done. And kudos, man. He made his point.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know what? I think of you as Hugh Beaumont. That's Matt Dean. Hugh Beaumont, member of Ward Cleaver. Very mild-mannered guy. But you know what? Stuff like that, they push you, man. Guys, thank y'all.
Rob, you're the only one that I know still references Leave It to Beaver. Just so you
know.
I just want you to know, no one knows what the hell you're talking about, bro. Like you're missing 3 generations there. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Brendan, can I ask you a real?
Yeah, go ahead.
Brendan, can I ask you a real quick question before we wrap up?
Sure.
Turn that coffee cup around. I got to see what that coffee cup's all
You
about.
like today's
That
edition?
thing's big time.
Oh yeah, today's
Wow.
edition is Cartman.
Screw you,
Awesome,
Rob.
man.
Screw you, Rob. Screw you, Rob.
Oh,
My bad.
we got Chef in there. Hello, children. Hello,
Rob,
children.
Rob, did you drink your coffee today, Rob? Rob.
Oh, God almighty, I love it, man. This is the best show. Wait, listen, thank you, everybody, watching this. We'll get through it. Matt Dean, John Hartwell, 2 of the best people out there. Mark Schlaball, ESPN.com. Thank y'all so much. Let's say something about sponsors we're so blessed to have. Landers Ford, Poplar, and Houston Levy, where Collierville and Germantown meet. They're open every day of the week, except Sunday. The day means more than the dollar. Brad Bellamy's the general manager. Ask for Brad. They'll walk you through. There's a lot of anxiety that goes with looking at a new car or truck or SUV. Throw that out the window. Get out there. They've got Expeditions, Broncos. They've got those robin egg blue Broncos. The ladies love them. The retro with the red on there. They've got them all. If you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you paid too much. Kent Ritchie, Don Kitchens, Brad Bellamy, they're the best people. Lights Out Sleep Gummies, 25% off. Energy, Chill, and Lights Out. They've also got pain topicals, lotions, and gels. They work. Pro Athletes Hemp Association. Use code SIDELINES at checkout for 25% off. Hewlett and Dunn on Instagram. Boot of the Week. J.M. Huffman, Charles Hall, the owner, his wife Laura, Raven, Squidward, Lydia, the best people. They're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. It's in Shelby County. That's where Memphis is, Germantown. Man, all over the country, people order. Boots, Barber, Filson, the best boots, men's, women's, children clothing for the life you live. Rumble Boxing, how you fight is how you live. Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis, open every day of the week. 45-minute classes with weights and punching bags, and Camp Lee and the staff down there to serve you. How you fight is really how you live. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Find ways to help people, find excuses to win, make every day count. It only takes one sip of the bottle to know if it's a good bottle of wine. See you tonight. Thanks for watching.